I just
Well, I'll just say this as we conclude this episode in a record like 12 minutes.
yeah.
I apologize for making you watch that film. It's a horrible film, but and there's nothing really redeeming that these are my final thoughts. Nothing really redeeming about it and no way to fix it. But I think we've watched too many decent films and fixable films
Yeah, yeah.
on this. So I just felt like we need to throw something in there that was, because honestly, I was curious because you're a better critique of films than I am, and you go a lot deeper than I do. So I was
Uh,
curious if you found anything, but the fact that you didn't find
no,
anything.
I didn't find anything. I mean, the cinematography. I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, you're good.
The cinematography. There's a director. I'm trying to think. It's he directs a lot of action movie like Tony Scott, Ridley Scott. One of those. One of them passed away. I'm not sure which right away. They do a lot of quick jump cuts in
Mm-hmm.
like action or suspense. So I thought the director, who was it, D.
D. Reese.
D. Reese, and whoever was editing borrowed from Ridley Scott type. It's the director who did like Unstoppable with Denzel and Chris Pine.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the
That's
the train movie with John Travolta and Denzel.
Tony Scott.
So Tony Scott does a lot of those jump cuts that are quick, and I thought the editor for this movie tried to borrow. So I could see what they were trying to do, trying to make like this thriller that trying to I don't know, but they it it could also be and I would you ever, before we clear the show, would you ever direct a movie where you're not comfortable with the genre? Would you know how to handle a science fiction film that takes place in space at this point in your career? I wouldn't. I
No,
wouldn't take it on.
so the feature that I did was it had a lot of action in it. It had a lot of low budget action, and I realized that like action in itself is its own story. Like the physical, like it has beats, and I don't understand. I haven't fully grasped how to do that. And if
No.
you ever watch that trash film that I made, yeah, I think there's some redeeming qualities about it. But as my own
Right.
personal, as a director, I did a trash job, and everybody else suffered because of it. Everybody else did great for themselves, but I didn't lead them well. I didn't know what I was doing. Like
Same.
I didn't know, and I going back into it, I found the niche and I found what I enjoy and what I do well, and I don't at this point, I don't see myself leaving it unless something
Now, what
massive shows up.
what kind of film before we go? And because we don't, well, we won't dive too much into it. We can get into that and the other people. But would you stay pretty much in the Ed Burns type character driven storytelling movies that we've grown to love over the years?
Yeah, I think right now I like rom-coms. I'm a big fan of rom-coms, which I used to hate them, but now I
Like Date
love
Night.
them.
You
Hmm.
mentioned Date Night, I think.
Things like that, comedies. Yeah, like I don't care much for these outside forces and these big films. So at this point in my career, I don't think I would do it. I wouldn't go beyond what I know.
I think I would not ever want to do a bigger film like a superhero movie or a disaster movie, nothing like that. But I think I would like to bounce back and I wouldn't mind to have like a couple million, like $1 million budget, $500,000 budget,
Yeah.
and these little Ed Burn kind of drama. I like to bounce back between like maybe a romantic comedy, a drama, and occasionally I wouldn't mind to somehow work in a nice little serial killer movie, but a clever one, a good one, and
Mm-hmm.
not like a gore fest, but like Seven. Have you watched the movie Seven with Brad
Mm-hmm.
Pitt? Or I would never be able to do that good of a job, but like a small slice of that, I think it could be done low budget, well, um,
Yeah.
tastefully, but within the context of the genre you're doing. It
Yeah.
would be a blood fest or a gore fest unless it was needed to be. It would just be, to do. So I think that would be cool. But yeah,
Yeah.
as far as the last thing he wanted,
Dee Reese has gone on. Now, she did direct a short called Walmart the Box and then an episode of Electric Dreams in 2018.
See, they were
But
hoping that the last thing he wanted was put in the box and not even shipped away.
exactly. But since then, so I don't know where that falls. I'm guessing they probably did that before. And this was just the release date, but I'm guessing they probably did that before the last thing that he wanted.
Yeah.
But since then, she's only directed 2 episodes of Space Force.
Okay.
Yeah, I kind of see where she's kind of trying to start redoing her career.
Yeah.
After this huge disaster. But anyway, that's going to do it for this episode. So since I picked this week, do you want to pick next week, or do you want to just?
Well, I do have one in mind. We don't have to. We don't have to do it. It's on Hulu. A Lifeless Ordinary.
Let's do it.
It's got Ewan McGregor. Have you heard of it before?
It sounds familiar, but
Okay,
I
if you
can't
go
think of
into it
it.
blind, I wouldn't even read about it if you like going into it blind.
Okay.
Ewan McGregor, Cameron Diaz, Ian Holm, Delroy Lindo. So it's got some names. It's from 1996. I think it's 1997. 1997, actually.
All right.
A British film by Danny Boyle.
Yeah.
One of his earlier movies.
Okay.
So yeah, it's about 20.
Did you do Trainspotting?
He did Train. This is his movie after Trainspotting.
Okay, because I've seen Trainspotting, and that's a tough movie.
Now this is America was trying to make
Don't give away too much.
Okay, they were trying to make him mainstream with this film.
Okay.
So that's all I'll say. Yeah, it's on Hulu.
Danny Boyle, I saw Slumdog. Big fan of that. And then didn't he do? No, that's the only one I've seen. Trainspotting and yes, Steve Jobs.
He did also one of the back in 2003 or early 2004, 28 Days Later, which is one of the most realistic zombie films, and eerie that they filmed London to look empty.
Oh, I've heard of it, but I've never actually seen it.
So even if you don't want to watch, it's a zombie movie, but even if you don't want to watch the movie, just type in something like 28 Days Later, empty London, just to see. It was kind of reminiscent of Tom Cruise from Vanilla Sky in downtown New York, Manhattan, when it was just completely empty. So that's kind of cool about 28. And with 28 Days Later, really quick side note, it ended up doing such good business in America that they, when it was at the movie theater, that they filmed another scene, like they used one of the scenes, like a second ending, shifted to the theater, and after the first ending was over, you could watch another ending.
Oh yeah, you don't typically see that, especially in the theater.
And I worked at the theater. We were still doing the show at WMMT at the time, so it was cool. It was cool.
That's cool. All right, so A Life Less Ordinary will be our movie for next week. So we are going to wrap it up, put a little bow on top of the last thing he wanted, because really the last thing that anyone ever wants is to watch this film again.
Our audience, if they watch it,
throw it in the grave and cover it up. Oh, so terrible. Next week, A Life Less Ordinary will be back. Maybe not same time, but same place.
Yeah.
So look forward to seeing you then. I'm Jake.
I'm Adam.
And we will see you next week.
Bye-bye.